I'm gonna deck your halls, bub.
If you want to enter our new Xbox and PS5 giveaway, all you have to do is subscribe and leave a comment. We'll be picking a subscriber to win out of the comments. The Big Show is one of the greatest big men of all time. His consistency is often overlooked in favor of the poor booking decisions he was subjected to, especially in the later years of his career. But there's no denying that his legacy will overshadow whatever trip-ups he may have had to deal with over the years. Fans have seen him in the ring for years, but there's a lot they still don't know about him. I'm D Wicked from Watch WWE, and here's 10 things you didn't know about the Big Show. Number 10, he's an 11-time tag team champion. Big Show has been around for a long time and has spent most of his career being prominently featured as a massive draw. He's one of the few wrestlers in the industry to have won the tag team titles with more than one partner, as he has won the gold with 7 different wrestlers. Over the course of his run with WCW and WWE, Big Show has won a whopping 11 tag team championships. He won 3 WCW World Tag Team titles with Lex Luger, Sting, and Scott Hall respectively. Once he made the move to WWE, he won the tag team gold with 4 different partners. He had 2 reigns each, with The Miz, The Undertaker, Kane, and Chris Jericho. Newer fans of the product would certainly be familiar with Jericho and Show Miz. The Big Show did a great job in the tag team division, as he was able to form a strong partnership with just about anyone. His imposing size and strength immediately made any team he was involved in extremely dangerous. When the time came for the WWE to split the group up, you could always trust the Big Show to take to the turning since, well. Number 9, a ridiculous number of heel turns. Heel and face turns are part and parcel of the business. There must be less than a handful of wrestlers in the industry to have never turned over the course of their career, and the Big Show is far from making that list. The big man has been around for almost 25 years now and has undergone more character changes than most. Over the course of his storied career, the Big Show has turned over 30 times. His recent run saw him challenge Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship right after winning it at WrestleMania 36. The interaction and subsequent match had Show play the role of the heel. He came up short and went off programming before making another appearance on the June 15th episode of Raw. The Big Show teamed with the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders to fight off Akira Tozawa and his ninjas. That appearance had him playing the role of a face with absolutely no indication of what it brought about the character change. This, for the Big Show, really isn't that weird.
It goes up. Oh, and a choke slam to the ninja. KO punch.
Number 8, he fought another giant backstage. Despite his imposing size and overall intimidating presence, the Big Show usually comes across as a kind, caring, gentle giant. That doesn't mean he hasn't dealt with his fair share of conflict backstage, however. According to Matt Sydal, the world's largest athlete once got into a fight with the Great Khali. There are few men who can match the Big Show in size and strength, but the Big Khali is absolutely one of them. According to Sydal, Big Show took exception to some of Khali's actions and decided to get in his face. Show clearly intended to get into a physical altercation with the other big man, but before they could make contact, Show lost his footing and fell to the ground. This gave Khali the upper hand in the fight, which was short-lived, but must have been a sight to behold for everyone present.
Hey Show, meet your opponent for tonight, the Great Khali.
Number 7, he suffers from acromegaly. The Big Show is 7 feet tall, a side effect of him suffering from acromegaly. It's a hormonal disorder that develops when the pituitary gland produces too much of the growth hormone. The disease usually manifests during adulthood and is difficult to spot in childhood. The Big Show isn't the first WWE wrestler to deal with acromegaly. Andre the Giant famously suffered from the disorder as well, which was responsible for him being 7 feet 4 inches tall. However, unlike Andre the Giant, the Big Show got corrective surgery early on to correct the issue. At the age of 12, the Big Show was already 6 feet tall, and by the time he was 17, he had grown another foot. The massive growth spurt he experienced in his youth may not have been easy on him when he was a child, but it did open the door to become one of the greatest giants in wrestling history.
I played football at 11, and at 12 I was 6'2", 220, and they wouldn't let me play. I was too big. Wow. You know, I think the weight cutoff was like 160 at 12.
Number 6, his first in-ring name. Fans today know him as The Big Show, but he was not always known as such. When he first made his debut in WCW back in 1995, The Big Show was simply billed as Paul White, which is his true real-life name. He spent about 4 years with the promotion, wrestling under his real name or as The Giant, before making the move to WWE in early 1999. He made his WWE debut as Big Nasty Paul White. When the name failed to take off, especially among the fans, he was renamed to The Big Show. Related to this, when The Big Show initially initially started out in the business, he was billed as Andre the Giant's son, but that gimmick also didn't stick.
What does Andre mean to you as somebody who's been a big man in the industry?
Well, for me, Andre, I came in as the son of Andre.
Number 5, original career plans. There's certain wrestlers who grow up dreaming of the day they get to work a match in front of a rabid WWE crowd inside of the squared circle. Take Sasha Banks, for example. There's screen caps of her in attendance at WWE shows years before she ever set foot in the ring herself. The Big Show, on the other hand, is not in the same camp. When he was younger, he never imagined that he would end up being a pro wrestler for the biggest promotion in the world. In an interview, he said as a child he loved 2 things: basketball and pro wrestling, but he never thought of the latter as a viable career option. He did consider trying to make it as a basketball player, however. When that didn't pan out, he spent some time as a bouncer as well as a bounty hunter, before eventually making it big as a professional wrestler and sports entertainer.
I should have been a football player, but for some reason I thought I was graceful and I was going to play basketball. Till I got to the college level and realized there were guys 6'10" with 40-inch verticals.
Number 4, bad luck with hotels. The Big Show may not be as notorious or controversial as guys like Ric Flair, the Ultimate Warrior, but he's had his fair share of controversy over the course of his career as well. Pro wrestlers spend most of their year on the road, bouncing from one hotel to another. In the late 90s, Big Show reportedly got into a lot of trouble after allegedly exposing himself to a woman working at a hotel he was staying at. Show was never convicted as there wasn't enough evidence, but his mugshot is still easy to find online. A couple years later, in 1999, a man named Robert Sawyer accused the Big Show of breaking his jaw after a dispute in a hotel in New York. The Giant defended himself, saying that Sawyer had acted obnoxiously and he had become physical before he reacted. Show responded by punching him in the face and breaking his jaw. The lawsuit ended with the judge decreeing Show to not be guilty.
Mr. White?
Number 3, he's been in 11 movies. The Big Show is a big, likable, entertaining presence on the screen, so it wasn't altogether surprising that he got his own short-lived Netflix show. The Big Show has been a presence in Hollywood for years, however, appearing in 11 movies over the course of his career. He made his first movie appearance in 1996 in a movie called Reggie's Prayer. His most fondly remembered appearances are in movies like Jingle All the Way, The Waterboy, MacGruber, and Fighting with My Family. In addition to his Hollywood appearances, The Big Show has also appeared in countless TV shows, typically as The Big Show. His most prominent TV role would probably be his appearance on the TV show Psych back in 2013. Unfortunately, the big man will pretty much always be a typecast because of his size, but he has managed to put together a pretty impressive career outside of the square circle nonetheless.
I'm gonna deck your halls, bub.
Number 2, PWI Wrestler of the Year. Every year, Pro Wrestling Illustrated crowns one wrestler as its Wrestler of the Year. After making his WCW debut in 1995, he went on to have a fantastic run with the promotion. His great showings led him to being crowned PWI's Wrestler of the Year and its Rookie of the Year in 1996. He was also ranked second in that year's list of the top 500 singles wrestlers in the PWI 500, where he was billed as the Giant. That year, he came second only to the legendary Shawn Michaels. From a critic's point of view, this was arguably the greatest year of the Big Show's career, which saw him get his hands on the WCW World Heavyweight Championship soon after making his debut. And number 1, Hulk Hogan got him into the business. After his plans to become a pro basketball player fell under his feet, the Big Show had a brief stint answering phone calls. While he was doing that for a karaoke company, he met a man named Danny who would later introduce the Giant to his friend Hulk Hogan. Soon after they met, they had an informal basketball game as a part of WCW promoting an upcoming show. Show's ability to entertain and work a card caught Hogan's eye, who went ahead and recommended him to WCW Vice President Eric Bischoff. Soon after, Show was invited backstage to meet some of the members of the WCW roster, before he met with Eric Bischoff and signed a contract despite having no professional wrestling experience. Strangely enough, Show had already met with WWE, but he had been turned down because of his lack of experience. That mistake was short-lived though, as the Giant would join the company in the early 1999. And those are 10 things you might not have known about the Big Show. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments down below. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel, and notifications, ring that bell.